Hey there, and welcome to another broadcast with Rebel Financial. Happy Halloween. Is it October 30th? As you can see, we've got our costumes on. May the force be with you.
I am a broker, and I've tried to slick my hair back and wear these glasses. It's not working too well, so.
You would think, I guess it probably, you're like, isn't that what you always wear? But we don't, we're usually like a little bit more laid back in our attire, so it is different to see Tony like this versus if you're watching that and you're like, isn't that what investment advisors and stuff wear normally? Like, yeah, but we don't, so it's a good costume for him.
Well, thank you. And I don't know what the glasses had, but I'm supposed to be, slick. I'll probably wear this next year and be a lawyer or something as well, so
right.
I'm not very creative.
Well, thanks for joining us for our book review. This one's near and dear to my heart. One of my favorites of all time, Zig Ziglar. Just a great human being. Changing the Picture, How to Stay Motivated, which is kind of part of a 3-part series he does. But I mean, the amount of content that man has put out is amazing.
Yeah, and when you listen to it, I mean, it's amazing that he's able to pull these presentations together
right.
and put it into a book format. He does such a good job. But I it's been a long time. I think you've read a lot more of Zig Ziglar than I have, but I have read some. But for the most part, it's been years. Mm-hmm. Maybe a few years ago, I picked it up again. But it just brings back. It's just refreshing because he's just a positive person.
Trying to make the world a better place.
And we're in a not so positive time right now. I mean,
and that's why we chose it, right? We wanted to do something more uplifting and positive, and put that out there. And it really reminds you that you should be reading things like this or listening to them. In this case, I think, he is a public speaker, and these programs that you do, while you can get them in books, the audiobooks are much better because they're compilations of speeches he's given, and the way that he tells stories and delivers things and uplifts people, I think is half of it. And so even us doing this book review is not a great testament to this. But hopefully, if you are watching this, it inspires you, to go read one of his books, like the one that we're going over right now. The one like See You at the Top, great long series, just all about building people up individually, as groups, as organizations. There are things that, I'm totally different from. He comes from a very religious background. I'm not religious at all, but I see eye to eye in what he's bringing from that perspective. Yeah. And it doesn't diminish the message at all. Yeah.
And you could take this, whether it is an audiobook like we like to listen to, or a book, or even CDs, if that's what you have, you can listen to 5 or 10 minutes a day, and I just think it makes you feel better listening to it and gives you a good perspective, because everything is about his positive perspective on things and trying to get you into a positive perspective.
And I think he's probably the one that originally got me, sometime 15 to 20 years ago. He always had this thing talking about Automobile University. I think he's been preaching that for, 25 years or something. Back when it was like cassette tapes, and would so to say, hey, when you're on the road to travel, or you're doing work trips or sales calls or whatever, you have so much time that if you just spent half of that time listening to something that was productive, that would make you a better person, or that would learn something, over a few years, you could have the equivalent to like multiple degrees, make your life better, etc. And so I really took that to heart. And I think I've probably read hundreds and hundreds of audiobooks because of him, and totally made me part of the person that I am. So obviously not with us anymore, but thanks to Zig for kind of making me the person that I am as well too. So let's delve into this book.
Sure.
So I think one of the things that's awesome about what he does is he tells everything in stories. He's always just got all these stories to tell, to like basically intro into like what his point is, right? And so even like with what we're thinking about with Black Lives Matter and everything like that, and some of these speeches that he gave a long time ago, it's almost like he's before his time. He talks about the story of how he really liked Shirley Temple and whatso, but how destructive some of those movies were in terms of like the self-image for black people.
Right. Like,
and then,
because she was so much, even at a young age.
and just the role cast of how they had the roles in there, and he tells a story, about the birthday cake and it being left over, and the little girl in there. And then the one I think that really hits you too is he tells a story about this guy that does balloons, and then he would let balloons go and they'd fly up during a birthday party, and one of the young black boys came up and said, if you let a black one go, will it go up? And so obviously he didn't feel, that's how society had taught him, right?
Society has held him down. He just expected all black things, including himself, were held back or not.
And the balloon guy was like, yeah. He was like, it doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside, it's what matters on the inside. And so, I mean, like, to have these messages a long time ago to try to teach people and tell people that, we need to lift people up, not drag people down. And I put this at the end because, election day is coming up, and I'm sure a lot of you may have already voted. But one of the quotes he puts at the end, which, whether we're talking about this or whether we're just talking about life in general and getting things better, but he talks about like leadership and making other people better. And he said, if you don't reach down and help pull people up, sooner or later, by sheer weight of numbers, they will reach up and drag us all down. And so I think it's very telling that we have the opportunity to do that a lot. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of leadership out there trying to help people to be better and pulling people up. And so that's unfortunate. So go vote.
I will say, go vote, and if you haven't already. He's amazing that he could make a story so uplifting and positive just out of mundane, everyday stuff. I mean, right. I was thinking about him, like, how much time did he spend, like, coming up with this?
I think it's been a lifetime. I think it's been like 40 or 50 years. Yeah. He's probably collected his stories.
And although, like we talked about, he's pretty self-deprecating. The fact is, he had success early on.
In sales,
But he was always learning about people. I mean, I think he was, when it comes to, the behavior of people, he was a student of it before it was anything. I mean, I think he really understands people. But anyway.
So, he talks a lot about, winners respond and don't react, identifying and correcting false images, just like we were talking about the story with the balloons. And then even when we're talking about, even roles in companies of younger people or women, etc., that we all have to do our part to correct things and make better organizations and help people to be better. And then also, we need to believe it personally that you can do things, and that, if you're not happy with yourself or whatever the case, it's never too late to change. And of course, we can say all these quotes and talk about what he says, but I think the thing that makes it powerful a lot of times are the stories that he tells are real, and of the people that have changed and done things. And he'll say, well, if they could do it, you can do it. If I was messing up like this, and now I did this, you can do it. And I was, like you said, he's pretty self-deprecating. Like, I was in the bottom half of school he was like, I was in that part of the class that makes the top half possible.
Right? I mean, it's such a simple thing, and he makes it humorous, With the first part, like you said there, that, respond and don't react. I always think of my parenting skills. At times we're all stressed out, and I think that's when the worst parenting comes out on us, when we really just react, for instance, to when our children are driving us crazy, or anybody, right? It's the reactions that we regret. If we could take a step back and, be patient and try to be a little more, a little wiser about things and respond as opposed to reacting,
right,
we'd feel a lot better, and we'd be lifting people up more, But right now there's just so much reacting.
Yeah, I think he tells the story of like driving to work and, getting cut off, and then it ruins this person's day, and they tell everybody else about it. And the thing is, what he, like the side note of that basically is that the guy that cut him off probably didn't even really know what he did. Just went on with his day, had fun, did whatever, and the person who was so worried about it, that had such a bad day, that probably made other people's bad days, like, that guy was controlling them.
Right.
You know, and so it's like at a certain point, you have control over your own life.
Right.
How you react to it, or makes you feel like you can change that,
Right.
And so I think, that as well too. And that kind of leads us into, because that story is very near to, like where he talks about succeeding in negative environments and what's so. And I think one thing that I remember this story from over a decade ago, and then of course you bring it up and it brings it fresh in your mind. He calls it, well, I won't spoil it. So basically, boss comes in, he's grumpy, something happened
He
at
got
home.
a speeding ticket.
Or got a
something
speeding
on the way
ticket,
to
comes
work.
in, is grumpy, chews out his operations manager, about why things aren't good around here, and, he goes and chews out the next in line head of, like, kind of HR woman out about why this is like that, and these people are coming in late, and she needs to get a handle on things, and then she goes and chews out the secretary and about, why hasn't this memo been put in, and this and that, and the secretary's all mad because she's been here for 2 years or 10 years, and this business wouldn't even be pulling in as much new business without her, and so she gets mad to somebody on the phone that's a frontline customer to the company. They get mad and go home, and they're mean to their kid because their kid came home and was just being rowdy, but it really wasn't their fault, and the kid goes outside and just kicks a cat across the street, and who knows if you heard it or not, but anyways, what he gets to at the end is, somebody could have stopped that somewhere in the middle there, and if somebody's having a bad day, just be thinking about somebody's been kicking his cat all day, and so I like to kind of take a lighter note to things, and sometimes just forgive people and brush past it, and you could be the person that stops that, right?
Yeah.
And I think, that story's kind of convoluted and long, and he obviously tells it much better than I can.
Right.
But I we're just trying to give you a taste of some of the stuff that he does. That's a great thing to just remember.
Yeah.
Who's been kicking this guy or girl's cat all day, and maybe they're mad, and it's not they're not a mean person or a bad person.
They're just having a bad day, and
Right.
you don't know why or what or what, where it's coming from, and so try to be the one that stops kicking the cat.
I think another one there that he talks about there, and again, there's lots of stories here, and how we all can, if we do something that could be construed as bad or whatever, it's because we were having a bad day or something, and somebody else does something bad, it's because they're a bad person. He starts telling all these different examples, but a good quote from that is he says, "Rare indeed is the person who can weigh others without putting their own thumb on the scale." So a lot of times, just don't do it. Don't judge people like that. It's kind of like take things as they go, and keep driving on and be positive and give people the benefit of the doubt. So, and then the next chapter is about common sense in human relationships. And I think, one of the things that I think is probably one of my favorite quotes from him of all time, kind of indicative of where we are today too, like in election season, is he tells a story about this old boss that he really looked up to, like a mentor, and he has a meeting with this sales guy who's pretty wealthy, et cetera, and he was coming to pitch him a new deal. They go through everything, and after the meeting, he asked the guy that he looks up to, the mentor, he said, why didn't you go for that? Why didn't it sound like a really, really good deal? And he said, Zig, I'll tell you something you should never, ever forget. You can never make a good deal with a bad guy, because it's generally not going to work out, regardless of how good it looks, how much you want something that's there. You want to do business and trust and follow, be a part of things with people that are good people, regardless if they think a little bit different from you or what. So they need to have integrity. They need to deal honestly with other people. They need to have values and ethics and morals.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and a big thing that Zig does is that, he believed in the products that he sold, that he was really helping people and doing things like
Right.
that. And I'm not saying we don't want to help people that don't have the best intentions, but I'd rather spend my time and efforts working with people who not only appreciate you and the products that you have, but that are really trying to make of the world a better place and are good people, right? As opposed to those that are just out for themselves and trying.
Well, and that reminds me of you said working with, and another one of his quotes is, would you rather have 3 people working for you or 1 working with you? Yeah. And how much more you can get done, you know? And then I'd say another powerful quote from that again, whether you're seeing it from somebody that's trying to grow and be, and you can relate to this, or could in the past, or whether you're somebody that guides and leads other people. But one of the points he makes, and he gives an example of himself, of how it helped him in his career, is a lot of people went a lot farther than they think or knew that they could because somebody else believed that they could. Yeah. You know? And sometimes it's just important to tell people, like, hey, you know, I think you are awesome. You could be way more awesome. I think you could go all the way to here. And, like, they wouldn't even believe that. And then, you know what? Maybe that person goes and actually does it. And they may not have even tried if it wouldn't have been for somebody at some point to tell them that.
Well, and hopefully it's you're telling yourself that I can do this. I can work hard and I can accomplish this. Because too often we are held back by words. And just a side note about this, every time you talk about a quote, it came at the end of a story. You know,
Stories.
He just came up with a story that, and it makes it stick with you and it makes you smile and enjoy it. So.
Right. This is kind of an easy one to talk about because, you know, if you tell a story or I tell a quote, it makes you remember some of the things that he said. And of course, you know, that's probably a lot more effective than just writing a book about all these characteristics that you should have, which I feel like that's most books today. They have good points. They're well written. But man, they're kind of lacking the story that I think is really going to make that stick in your mind to where you can remember it. Yeah. So the next thing, talk about winning relationships. And Zig's always big against gossip. And one of his main things that he tries to tell people to live by is never say anything behind anybody's back that you wouldn't say to their face. You know? Always act like the cameras are on. There should never be a point in time to where you have to say, oh, I didn't realize the mic was on. Like, why would you say something that you would be embarrassed of other people to hear come from you? You know?
Well, maybe fortunately nowadays the cameras are always on, so.
Or unfortunately.
Or unfortunately.
Who knows, you know? Yeah. And then I like this one too. It says, if you have integrity, you have nothing to fear because you have nothing to hide. You know, so if you're always being truthful in what's out, yeah, maybe somebody could like you or dislike you for something that you are, or what you believe. But if you're always truthful, what do you gotta hide, right? You know, I think that's a really good quote. So I'd have to say that's pretty much the summary of the book. I mean, like, I think it's, if you do it on audio, it's like 6 hours long. Breeze, nothing. And it's so good and uplifting. It'll make you feel better if you're feeling down about yourself, motivationally, or you're feeling down about society and other people. You know, listen to some Zig, and he'll bring you back up. And even some of the stuff that you even think about when you see the old, you know, commercials and stuff from like Liberty or whatever, where it's like pay it forward type stuff. I mean, that's the type of stuff he talks about. And then it inspires you to do something good for yourself, for somebody else. And, you know, you can get back into it, do some good things to make the world a better place and, you know, restore some faith in humanity again. So.
Well, what was the saying? There's my view, there's your view, and then there's the right view, you know? and that's one of the things he said, and it is so true. I mean, all of us are coming from different places. We have so much more stress on us this year. I don't mean to say so much more stress because we always put stress on ourselves.
Find something.
In fact, he says, you know, the people who have watches are the ones that, you know, don't have time. But people who don't have watches, societies and stuff, they seem to have the time and stuff. But it really is. I know you said 6 hours, but for me, it's like it's always worth listening to a few minutes a day just to get one of his stories.
Oh, yeah.
It brings a smile.
Because it ends it's so chopped up in stories and points that you could just listen to a few minutes of it. And, yeah. But I had to say, of listening to lots of his stuff, his number one quote, if you've never heard of it, is, you can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And that is kind of simple, sounds a little self-serving, but it's a good mantra. you know? And so it's cool. And, you know, more people should live by it. So coming up next week, we've got Cube Money with Scott Henderson. So tune into that. And then the week after that, we'll have our financial planning subject, talking about some benefits, open enrollment, etc. So tune in for that. Some of the open enrollment stuff will probably be ending around mid-November, so definitely tune in if you're still undecided or need some help, or if you've already made some elections, then if there's anything in there that changed your mind, a lot of times they will let you amend. Of course, if you need any help before then, feel free to chat us up or give us a ring or email. More than happy to help. And then November 20th will be our next book review. We're going to do The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And I think that'll be a great one. I mean, he's the guy that came out with the Start With Why after his famous TED Talk way back when. And then Leaders Eat Last. We actually just saw him on a Schwab Impact Conference just a couple days ago. So that's going to be a really good book review. And then we're going to be off for a week for Thanksgiving. So happy Halloween. Hope you got some good costumes.
Better than mine, anyway. Work on that.
You look sharp.
Yeah, thank you. And go on, try to make somebody smile today. Practice
Absolutely.
Zig, even if you can't read the book. So,
And go vote if you haven't already.
you know,
See you next week.
have a great weekend.